They don't want us to have a delicious sip of coffee and recognize that we got a sunrise and Bitcoin is running. Right? They're trying to suppress the truth about Bitcoin running. But the good news is about Bitcoin, you don't have to ask me if it's running. You can just check outside, right? If the sun is up, chances are Bitcoin is running. So let's have some coffee and talk about what's new, guys. Hopefully this thing doesn't crash again. I don't know what it is. It was denying me connecting earlier. But that's okay. Boo-boo, right? We're doing okay. We're doing okay. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hello, Matt. Hello, David. Hope you're doing well. Good day, team. We are a team. Huh? I like it. I like it. One reason why I insist on comments and the interaction is because sort of my frame for the way media is changing in this era is that it isn't passive, right? There is interaction. Passive media is kind of an anomaly in history. Most media, before we had the ability to use radio waves and project everything out, didn't really have this feature of sitting back and listening. So this is not a sit back and listen show, although you can sit back and listen. You don't have to comment. Someone's commenting for you, so there's interaction. So that's what we love. P-Man Van, bonjour all. Great to be here to have a glimpse of the future with you all. And Moscow time, of course, we're going to have a big vision of the future today. Lots going on, of course. Lots going on. Bomatatus, hello, boo-boo. Hope it's going well. Good morning, Bitcoiners, says Catacombs. Indeed, good morning. Good morning. Bomatan, morning, everyone. Look at this gang. We got tons of people here. Tommy, good morning. We are going to win. We're winning. We're winning. Not only that, we're winning. Time to lift and hang out with the BTC crew. I love that people lift during this show. That's like I didn't intend it. I just kind of hoped it would happen, that people would use this as a lifting prompt. And here we are, right? Here we are. All right. Now, some of you are lifting weights, but I know all of you are waiting for Moscow time. The fakest news we can find. There's so much today. It couldn't be better. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right. The first one here, right? We don't really care about beer, right? Who cares about beer? I don't drink beer. I don't really like beer. I've never really liked beer. It's kind of gross. So I didn't really worry about the Bud Light thing very much, right? I was like, Bud Light, who cares about the thing and blah, blah, blah. So I've never been in this. It wasn't hard for me to boycott Bud Light beer because I've never bought a Bud Light beer in my life, right? So I'm not in on that and all these things, right? I don't really care about Dylan Mulvaney and leave her alone, leave him alone. Who cares, right? And Bud Light, who cares? But CNN is pulling something a little different here. And I would care about this if I did drink beer. This is a headline from today. This beer is made from recycled shower water, right? So you can drink shower water now. If you're not into beer as it is, have some shower water. It's going to be good, right? What about this one? This is from the Daily Mail. JP Morgan handled Jeffrey Epstein's $1.1 million in payments to women and girls after the bank said it shut his accounts because he was a convicted sex offender. Whoops. Sorry, JP Morgan. This one's pretty good. New York Times. Who paid for a mysterious spy tool? The FBI. An FBI inquiry found. After the New York Times report, the FBI investigated who had paid for a spy tool used by the U.S. government. The FBI found out it was the FBI. Right? So that's good for them. At least they found out. Here's a good one. When every day, this is from the Washington Post, when every day somewhere is a climate record of some sort, right? When every day is a climate record of some sort. We are now living on a planet with a record number of record-breaking climate events. Climate scientists say we should be prepared to see records shattered so frequently that the statistics and the superlatives might melt together in the public mind. It couldn't be better. They might melt together in the public mind. So, a few weeks ago when there was trouble in America, it was like, look at the bottom of the ocean. There's a submarine that we know is sunk, right? And if it wasn't look at the bottom of the ocean and drag your mind to the bottom of the ocean, it was drag your mind to the moon and wonder what's going on with the UFOs. And now it is superlatives and statistics and what's going on with the record-shattering weather. All right, we'll see. This one's really good, right? This is we love any news that involves NBC and the Federal Reserve is going to make it to Moscow time every single time. There isn't a way they don't make it, right? So here's what we got. Why the Federal Reserve has made everything more expensive to make things less expensive, right? A little bit of science and a little bit of art go into slowing down the behemoth that is the US economy. They really went with it. Let me read it again. Why the Federal Reserve has made everything more expensive to make things less expensive. Got it. Thanks, NBC. More expensive, less. Got it. Perfect. The same logic might follow this one. This is the Atlantic, right? The Atlantic is always just a great source for Moscow time, right? I always wonder what Steve Jobs must be doing in heaven or in his grave or whatever the hell's going on with him, watching his money get spent on this shit. Because Steve Jobs would have been into Bitcoin. He would have helped Elon Musk buy Twitter. I believe it anyway, but it doesn't matter, right? He's gone, and it's almost like history would have been too affected by him being here, so he had to go, right? So here's what the Atlantic, and the reason I mention that is because his wife bought the Atlantic, right? So his wife, who some people say isn't doing so well health-wise, but I'm not here to speculate on that. But here's an Atlantic headline: the weird, fragmented world of social media after Twitter. Right? The common forum that Elon Musk destroyed will never be replaced. And that's okay, right? Meanwhile, in case you didn't know, Twitter is doing all-time numbers. It's never been more popular. There's never been more people using it. And things look like they're going great. So the Atlantic, I think you might have jumped the shark here, right? I think you might have jumped the shark. So there you go. Now we're going to do our favorite. There's a whole section of Moscow time that I've saved here. It's hard. They're all kind of the same, but it's all the Trump indictment stuff, right? It's all the Trump in big trouble, because of course Trump got indicted yesterday. Right? He got indicted again, his third time. 2 impeachments, 3 indictments. He's doing great. All right, these are good stats. So there's already a super cut. If you haven't seen it, Tom Elliott, who's really great at this, he's made a super cut of everyone yesterday, trying to talk about Hunter Biden and his dad. We're going to get to that in a second, but there's a whole compilation of, they were just phone calls. How can you expect a dad not to talk to his son and his friends? Like, come on, it's just phone calls, right? There's a whole supercut from yesterday of all these people just putting down the talking points, right? Hunter Biden working the phones, right? It's just him being dad. It's just him being a dad, right? I can't see anything there, right? So they can't see anything there. But here's where they do see all kinds of bad things, right? They don't see anything with it's just calls. It's just your son, right? Your son had to call you, and he's your son. So it doesn't matter who he's with many times in your recording. It doesn't matter. It's your son, right? So you got to go check out that supercut, Tom Elliott. And it's one of those ones, it's like when they did it with Trump winning, and then when they went back and showed all the same people, it's all the same people as what's that guy from the Vanderbilt family, Anderson Cooper, right? It's all the same people. Trump can't win. This is the same thing. It's just payments to your son. Like, it's just your conversations with your son. What do you mean? Not a big deal, right? So here, here's what they do think is a problem, right? So this is the Atlantic. Donald Trump is an enemy of the United States, Radio Free Tom writes. And after today's indictment, Americans must put a shoulder to the wheel and defend our republic in every peaceful, legal, and civilized way we can, right? So that he's got them all pumped up. This is they have a podcast on MSNBC prosecuting Donald Trump. So this guy's a regular, right? Today, Trump was indicted for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Wah, wah. This is a moment of truth for many Republicans, right? It's a moment of truth. It's a moment of truth, guys. You have to get with the program. They must decide if they are partisans or patriots. They can no longer claim to be both. We can't claim to be both, guys. We're out of the game. We can't be partisans and patriots. The Atlantic again. This indictment cuts to the gravest act Trump committed, his lengthy, concerted effort to subvert American democracy. And the headline is, Trump attempted a brazen, dead serious attack on American democracy. Now oh yeah, well, this is another one. There's a doctor on MSNBC telling everyone you got to wear a mask again. That's just out of order. But if you didn't know, COVID's back, guys. Get your mask on. Right, that's out there. Here's MSNBC. MSNBC had the best ones today. Atlantic, MSNBC is just saturated. It's just Trump. Oh my God, indicted. Oh my God, treason. So here's one. Why this Trump indictment is likely the most important. Here's another one. You would have to be literally insane. This is actually my favorite one. Okay, this is my favorite one. This is my actual favorite one. There's another one later we're going to talk about from Joy Reid, and that's going to let us go into what we're talking about today. But this one needs to be hung on a wall somewhere. This inevitably, if we win and everything's great and it's a Bitcoin standard, we're all eating steak and eggs and everyone's healthy and fit and muscular and lifting weights and we're all having a great time and we got free energy and we got families exploding and kids everywhere and we live in our Bitcoin standard utopia with good chairs and good houses and good farms and all that stuff, right? This should be put in a museum or just hung up to talk about the times that we lived in, right? So this is a typical lawyer guy, Neil Katyal, right? And he's got his glasses on. He's in his home wearing a suit and tie, doing a Zoom interview on the fake news. And here's his actual quote. This came out of a human being's mouth. Someone actually said this in public and is on the record for saying it. And there's a video of them. And as I said, it's headed to a museum one day. You would have to be literally insane, he says, to think you won the election after everyone, including the intelligence officials, the election security officials, and others are saying you didn't win. So remember, everyone, if you don't listen to the intelligence officials and the security officials, you have to be literally insane. You're literally insane for not listening because they're right about everything. Always, right? The 50 known liars about the Hunter Biden laptop, don't worry about them. It doesn't matter, right? They can lie to you, right? You're insane if you don't listen to them. You're a fucking idiot if you don't listen to them, right? So don't worry about it. It's cool. It's cool. Now, here's my absolute favorite one, right? This is Joy Reid being maybe the stupidest person on television. Maybe. I've said it before, right? Because I don't think there's a bunch of them out there like Anderson Cooper, who you can see his face. He kind of knows what he's doing, right? He's like, oh God, this is rough, right? I got to sell this fucking story. Joy Reid, she's too stupid. She doesn't know she's selling anything else. Now, I don't know. I normally try and give her a bit of credit, right? But she's given me work to do here, right? She's putting shit on me today, right? This is what she says. And if one motherfucker comes up to me with this shit, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, right? Well, I won't get angry. I'll have fun with it. But still, if someone comes to you and says this stuff, don't get angry because it's infuriating, right? But this is their marching orders. This is what the NPCs are being programmed to do today. And one of them might come in your vicinity, right? So be prepared because this is their actual marching orders, right? And I think you're going to see it. As crazy as it sounds. So this is Olivia Troy on the Trump election interference. So pardon me. So it's not Joy. Let me just back up. I said it was Joy Reid who said it. I only got the quote. It wasn't Joy Reid who said it. She tweeted it, right? Someone on her show. So she let this be said on her show. But let me just take it back that she might not be the stupidest fucker I've ever heard in my life. Pardon all the swearing this morning. We're a spicy morning, right? So this is what this person said, Olivia Troy, right? Now, this is a real thing. I think that you need to sit down and think about your neighbor, your family member who still thinks the election was stolen, and read this document and have that serious conversation with them. Why can't these people get why do I hear sad stories about other people having bad luck and all that? And this fucking person is on TV telling people to come and bug me and convince me, some low life neighbor retard. Pardon me. I'm getting egged on by Johnny Rico here, saying I'm crushing it today. I don't even want to say the R word. I don't like it. We don't need to say that. Let's just back up. Let's calm down and get into the normal story today. All right. So all you need to know about what happened yesterday with this new indictment on Trump, I think Jonathan Turley had it best, right? Jonathan Turley, a law professor. He's sort of my go-to for legal logic when it comes to American politics, and just a great mind, a great legal mind. By the way, Um, Steve Jobs, this is one of the neatest things, just because I was talking about him earlier. I always agreed with this about Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs was a big advocate of charter schools and of getting rid of public schools, right? He was totally into that kind of stuff. And he used to say, just because of the type of education those people got, that people who learned computer programming and law, both of them should get automatic US citizenship no matter where they are in the world. And his reason was, we don't need more lawyers. It was that both of these fields teach you how to think. The coding that goes into the syllogisms and the logical reasoning and the ability to manipulate language, whether a computer coded language or an English or whatever other language that you code in. But of course, laws are written in code and they have to follow the same consequential logic as code writing, right? So his whole thing was that these people know how to think. And that's why I continue to recommend law as an education system, not as a job, but it's one of the last liberal arts education platforms out there. Like, it really is, right? They teach you how to think. They teach you how to order your thoughts. I don't know how clear thinking I would be without my law degree and my ability to use that stuff. I never really practiced as a lawyer, but that was sort of an important factor in just having a clear mind. Now, I'm not a fan necessarily of higher education. In the old days, you were able to get a law education as an apprentice. It's not necessarily something you have to go to school for. In the really old days, and in some US states to this day, you don't need to go to law school at all. You can just write the bar exam. And if you can pass the bar exam, they say you're a lawyer, right? So, and then you got to, of course, article and practice an apprentice with a lawyer. But I think within that field, we're still going to have an opportunity to see this stuff. So anyway, all that just to give Jonathan Turley a little bit of context. But here's what he said about what happened yesterday. Special counsel Jack Smith just issued the first criminal indictment of alleged disinformation, in my view. So this would be the first ever time that disinformation has been criminal. If you take a red pen to all of the material presumptively protected by the First Amendment, you can reduce much of the indictment to a haiku. I felt that the Mar-a-Lago indictment was strong. This is the inverse. This is closer to the case against Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, where Smith was overturned by a unanimous Supreme Court. The press conference held by Smith only deepened the unease for some of us. Smith railed against the January 6th riot and made it sound like he was indicting Trump on incitement. He didn't. This disconnect was glaring and concerning. So it's really just about Trump being wrong, right? Now, everyone's saying Trump, of course, has First Amendment rights. Trump believed there was a stolen election, and therefore it's not a scam, right? He's allowed to protest and say these things. So it's just a First Amendment thing. And it's, I think, comes down to him on whether or not he has the rights that any other American has, right? Freedom of speech. And that's all we're really dealing with here. Now, the really unsettling part is that Jack Smith's charges. Now, if you didn't see this, it's not just, oh, get him out of the election, right? It's not just about jailing his opponent. If you look into the actual charges, and this comes from Joel Pollack, they're asking for the fucking death penalty. Did you know that? Did you know that the charges include the death penalty? Did you know that? Yeah, it does. So Jack Smith's going for the death penalty on Donald Trump for this, right? So, of course, none of it's going to work. And it looks like he's going to be totally fine here. The fact is, for a long time, people have been asking in the 2016 election, you've seen those supercuts, right, of everyone asking for the Electoral College to overturn Trump's win in 2016. It was the same thing. Kaneko the Great brings it up here in 2016. Democrats Rosie O'Donnell, Norm Eisen, Lawrence Tribe, George Takei, and Mark Ruffalo called on electors to change their votes from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton. Chris Hayes and Michael Moore asked electors to switch their votes on MSNBC, right? This is from Lawrence Lessig in the Washington Post. The Constitution lets the Electoral College choose the winner. They should choose Clinton. So lots of people did this before, and, it's exactly what Trump asked for. And all Trump really needs to do to defend himself, as far as I can tell. Now, that predicts a reasonable system. It's not a reasonable system. But if it was a reasonable system, all you would have to do is say, I believe 100% that the election was stolen and we were protesting it, right? So it wasn't incitement. It was really just that he went out and said, oh, I won the election, but as this person who said he's insane, he's literally insane, right? Because he didn't believe election officials and the national security apparatus, right? Of course he shouldn't have. They'd run ridiculous things on him for years. Now, One of the great things about this January 6th thing, it's another one of these weird things like COVID that's kind of like an IQ test. It kind of like filters out the NPCs very simply and easily, right? Once you see people say, oh, you kind of know that you're dealing with idiots, right? Now, I like Ron DeSantis. I do, right? I do like Ron DeSantis. If he was president, I don't think I would be upset. I think he's been a good governor of Florida. But here's the reason why he's in third place in the Trump in the Republican primaries, or as Trump calls it, the audition for his vice president. So he comes out and says, as president, I will end the weaponization of government, replace the FBI director, and ensure a single standard of justice for all Americans. While I've seen reports, I have not read the indictment. I do, though, believe we need to enact reform so that Americans have blah, 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 blah. So Cernovich says, while I've seen reports, I have not read the indictment. Cernovich says, come on, man, this is soulless legalese. Take a fucking stand and have some passion. And Hans Monkey comes in and said, this was such an easy layup. Whatever we think of Trump's theories, we have free speech and anyone can say what they like. It's like having your cake and eating it too. Incomprehensible that they fucked this up. And that's DeSantis. Now, he's doing his best. It's legalese, but Vivek shows why he's in second place in this race and was right behind Trump. So if you want to see so Tommy's asking about the Trump death penalty, go look at Joel Pollak. It's in Breitbart. Breitbart has an article on it this morning. So Joel Pollak said it's not just about imprisonment. Now, I don't think they're going to get the death penalty, but I love that they're trying. Come on, it's great, right? It's great. Now, I don't obviously want Trump to die, right? But what is amazing is, again, dropping people from space is actually on the fucking ballot now. If they're actually talking about killing him, and remember what I said months ago when he started floating the idea of public executions, that's when I first had the idea of space dropping. I had a nightmare of it when I was on the cruise and had COVID. And I was so sick of what Fauci had done to America that I said, all right, it's time to roll with Trump's public execution idea here. And it can't just be like what they did with Nuremberg. Like they put them in a room and gave them a needle, right? We get that going on recreationally in America and Canada, dying with needles. But it's not really that impressive, right? Electric chair, I don't know. It's kind of old-fashioned-y, right? Hanging, I could do, but it's over too quick, right? We got to fight against all the dopamine dealers and the attention whores and TikTok and all this stuff. So you got to compete. You got to have high production value. And that's why I continue to believe that Donald Trump, if he's president, is going to get someone like Tom Cruise to host space drops where maybe they borrow a rocket from Elon Musk, or maybe there's more of like an airplane that you can take to the line between space and Earth, and the same airplane that Tom Cruise was taking to practice his halo jumping in Mission Impossible, whatever movie ago. And that would be it. Tom Cruise would host, right? And he'd do the honors. He'd push these people out, and it would be great, right? So thank you, Jack Smith, for really opening the door to public executions by threatening to kill Donald Trump for denying the election results, right? So there's actual, capital punishment for him. All right, here's Vivek. This is why Vivek is in second place, right? This is why Vivek has totally leapfrogged DeSantis. DeSantis is a complete afterthought now. So DeSantis, I didn't read the indictment, but I'm going to fire the FBI guy and legalese, right? Vivek comes out and says, and remember, Vivek continues to have the best, and I think most, this is not even in this tweet, but I think the most comprehensive take on January 6th, it was the censorship, right? The censorship and not being able to talk in the weeks after January 6th. That was the darkest time of World War III, by the way, right? Those days, I can still remember because Bitcoin's going nuts. It's late 2020 and, lots of stuff are going well for me personally. I'm not so bothered because I've accepted what had happened, that it was stolen and all that. But I can see everyone around not able to talk about it. I'm not able to talk about it, right? We're kind of in lockdown times, and I was in Toronto for a little bit, and everyone there is mentally handicapped and can't understand what's going on in the world because they spend too much time on the CBC, and people were cheering when they found out that Biden won, right? So you're like, okay, well, let's just focus on Bitcoin and screw the American system, and I'm moving to Barbados because I'm getting out of this shithole. That was my feeling. I moved to America because Trump won. Right, I'm the opposite of those normal Canadians, and the Americans. I'm moving to Canada if Hillary doesn't win. Right, I'm moving to Canada if Trump wins. I did the opposite. I split Canada the minute Trump won, and I was going nowhere near America if Hillary won. I was moving to Israel or something crazy. I was out of there. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, and Phil C is mentioning here, DeSantis got Jeb Bush. He did. Who was arrested in January 6th protests get their concealed carry permits revoked. I saw that. Yeah, and it's who's spreading that stuff is and she's doing such a great job. She's doing such a great job. It's what's her name? She came in and speech protested our show in 2021 in Miami. She's great. She ran for Congress. Laura Loomer, right? I'm a big Laura Loomer. I always have been. I missed her when she was gone. She just looks so devoted to this stuff, and so she's been running the anti-DeSantis stuff about this concealed carry permits being revoked. Indeed, crazy stuff. Anyway, let me get to the Vivek Ramaswamy quote. Right. So this is what he said. So already he has, I think, perfectly framed what happened in January 6th as a failure of the fake news and censorship and all that kind of stuff, right? So already he gave probably the most accurate answer on what's going on with January 6th, but this is him talking about what happened yesterday, and it is gold. The corrupt federal police just won't stop until they've achieved their mission: eliminate Trump. This is un-American, and I commit to pardoning Trump for this indictment. Donald Trump isn't the cause of what happened on January 6th. The real cause was systemic and pervasive censorship of citizens in the year leading up to it. If you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. If you tell people they can't scream, that's when they tear things down. If we fail to admit the truth, January 6th will just be a preview of far worse to come, and I don't want to see us get there. And his prediction is entirely correct, right? Entirely correct. That's what's going on here. Now, the contrast to that, right, is the timing, right? So Trump gets indicted for a third time. Now, all kinds of people bringing that up, right? You get Greg Price here with the following. So he does a thing where he does all the dates of Trump's indictments and Hunter Biden's troubles and shows the symmetry, right? So the casual camouflaging of what Hunter Biden has done by the mainstream news and the information laundering system and the mainstream media. So here's what we found out. June 7th, FBI releases documents to Congress alleging the Bidens took a $10 million bribe from Burisma, right? So June 7th. June 8th, Jack Smith indicts Trump on Mar-a-Lago doc case. That's the doc one, right? Where are the documents, right? Oh, what's in them? We don't know. Nobody knows, right? July 26th, Hunter Biden goes to court and rejects sweetheart plea deal after it was revealed DOJ tried to give him a blanket immunity from future prosecutions, right? So we've talked about that one, how weird it was that he came in and the judge was like, what are you talking about? You can't get out of this stuff and this stuff, right? So that was July 26th. The next day, again, where's Jack Smith? Jack Smith adds more charges to Trump in the Mar-a-Lago case. So doubled up on the boxes hoax, right? So boxes hoax. July 31st, Hunter Biden's former business partner testifies to Congress that Joe Biden was on over 20 calls with his son's business partners and the Burisma execs pressured them to fire the prosecutor. August 1st, Jack Smith indicts Trump again for January 6th, right? So this Jack Smith guy, I mean, if we're pushing people out of it, if he's talking about capital punishment for Trump, I got a ticket for him on the Tom Cruise Express to space, right? This guy's got to be dropped from space, big time. Space dropper. Here's the contrast, of course, is the Federalist has a paper. The evidence against Biden and the Burisma corruption is overwhelming. Donald Trump Jr. had a really great take on that casual camouflaging coincidence of all of these indictments that happen one day after the other with Jack Smith and Hunter Biden. So he says, this is Donald Trump Jr. Anyone else noticing a pattern here? The corrupt bureaucrats of the Biden regime charged Trump literally the day after every single disastrous Biden family crime story. Rather than looking into the millions sent to the Bidens, their kids and their grandkids from virtually all of our enemies, they go after their political enemies, knowing that their lackeys in the media will use their bogus charges to cover for Joe Biden, the most corrupt president in the history of our nation. There's no such thing as this much coincidence. And if you've been paying attention, you will realize that we have become a banana republic. Truly disgusting. No, it's not. We love the banana republic that America's become because we're Bitcoiners. And Bitcoiners are not here to continue to organize and engineer our lives around nation states as if nation states are a major part of our identity. This is an anomaly in human history that we organize around ourselves with nationhood as a primary psychological factor and a primary motivating factor and a primary form of identification, right? It's never been that way. Now, geography does play a role, but it's cities and smaller areas that give you a reason to understand where you're from, because the geography is similar and connects people in lifestyle in different ways, right? Now, I have no problem with people from the west of America and the desert forming a security pact with people in the east of America, and I can understand why you'd want to have some linearity and federal competencies shared for commerce and for things to work, especially in an analog world. But we're leaving the analog world, right? We're moving into digital world, and these things become a lot simpler, and it puts more focus on the actual land you're on, right? Where you're living. And that makes me think of, I don't know if you guys saw this, right? So everything we know now about US politics, everything we know about the corruption of the legal system, we can talk a lot about the corruption of the financial system, and we will in a second. But first, I want to mention one thing that our favorite candidate in this election, Robert Kennedy, said. And Robert Kennedy did an amazing video yesterday on factory farming and what's going on in the United States with China and Bill Gates and everyone buying the farmland, right? So he came out and so, by the way, he is this is one policy area where I think he is way better than Trump, and it's not even close. Now, again, remember, I love Donald Trump, right? I want Donald Trump to get his revenge or whatever you want to call it, right? I don't think he needs to be president necessarily, right? I hope he becomes a national hero. If he is president, I'll be happy. Like, I'm not going to be upset about Donald Trump becoming president again, right? But the things that Trump can't do, right? The things he can't do, and love the guy, right? Here's Cernovich. I think now I'm going to talk about a little bit more about RFK and a lot more about what he said about China and Bill Gates, and a lot more about a quote that he just shared from his dad. But first, I just want to mention the weakness of Trump, right? This is the weakness. Now, it's not a bad weakness, and it's a weakness that I don't think he should be ashamed of or anything like that. It's just typical of where he's coming from. This is Cernovich's quote. Trump was the most norm-respecting president of my lifetime. He could and should have pardoned every non-violent January 6th offender like Jimmy Carter did with draft dodges. Pardoned himself. He could have done that too. But the man truly believed in the system. Far too many boomers are like this. Christian naiveness, right? Now, Cernovich is a Christian, so it's not this is not to slam Christians. Like, I don't read it that way, right? I think what it suggests is, remember the old card game, that song by, what was his name, DeRose or whatever, when it's like the devil and God playing cards, right? Look out, Lord, I'm gonna win, right? It's the card game. They're betting on people's souls, right? And God can't win because he can't cheat, right? And you just see the devil just cheating and slipping aces and winning more and more souls in this fight, right? So that's a little bit like what he's talking about here, right? Trump, I don't think, still to this day, as everything he's been through, everything he's gone through, still holds this kind of like Woodstock idea of America. We can save it, right? We can save it, but I don't know. There's crazy stuff going on. So anyway, all that to say, it's one way of looking at it, right? So now the video that Kennedy gave, which is it me or is Mike muted? I think it's you. It could be you. My mic should not be muted. Krista Berg, thank you, Matt Free. Yeah, thank you. There you go. So, I was going to say Krista Rose, an old Bitcoiner, and who I think got caught up in the Charlottesville stuff, unfortunately. But he was a real cool Bitcoiner back in the day. So, one second. So, Kennedy did this great video online, and this is it's not the Christian thing, but it's the part where Kennedy says things like, you deserve a president who can talk about God, right? I think Americans need that kind of thing, and Trump can do it, but we're not dealing with that form and factor. But here's where he really separates himself, and I think this is important. I think this is something that Bitcoiners will recognize as super valuable. So RFK did a big video on the Bill Gates and Chinese factory farm overtaking the American landscape, basically. And he used the example of North Carolina and showed that because some fella who was a crony state senator or something was able to pass laws that allowed for factory farming of pigs, right? And they put them in these warehouses, and the warehouses have all kinds of commercial advantages for raising pigs. First of all, factory floors and all these things. And I think the pork company was Smithfield or something. So they're the ones who perfected this technique. What ends up happening is the franchisees, so other farmers that want to compete, the price of pork went from like 68 cents a pound to 2 cents a pound or something ridiculous. So there was no way to compete. And then the factory farms themselves ended up becoming a system to remortgage the farms, because they couldn't just have the pigs on pasture land anymore. That wasn't going to work. That was the 68 cents a pound pork price. So to compete with the 2 cent per pound pork price, they had to adopt the commercial model, which was these factory systems. So immediately, all of these farms that owned the land had to have some form of investment to build the warehouses. So they all had to mortgage their farm in order to build the warehouse. The company comes in and does the slaughtering. It delivers the piglets. So you're getting all kinds of uniform stuff. They never take a bite of grass. They never spend any time on pasture. They never leave the factory. Now, when Smithfield, the pork company, perfected this technique, they were bought out by a Chinese company. So now this Chinese company owns all of this pork, right? Now, I don't want Chinese people to go starving, and I don't mind that Americans sell them pork, right? I'm not eating it. So I like the a little closer to the mic wouldn't hurt. Oh, there you go. So the upshot of all of this is that because Kennedy can talk about so many things about the future and about the world we're trying to make, not really just railing and continuing the things that came in the past, like Trump's diet, for example. Like, I mean, he's losing weight, he's doing better, but he's not out there selling fitness and health the way we need it in America right now. It's a small reason, apparently a small reason, but I think it's a big one on other levels, because it speaks to our orientation. It speaks to our, let's say, the drive in our life and the compass that we have in order to achieve things and move around and get things done, right? And he really focused in on how America is in a tough time because of what we've done to the land, that we're not eating nutritious food anymore, and that we've exploited the land in such a way that it's not really producing food for Americans. In fact, it's creating some form of debt slavery and serfdom, right? It's really reinstituting a form of feudalism that America is unfamiliar with. And he mentions in the video that Thomas Jefferson's idea of America was thousands of small farm owners with a stake in the American system, because that's how the food is produced, shared, traded. That's how commerce is run. And it puts those people first. It puts the farmers first, right? And I don't know if Trump is really operating on that level, right? I don't think Trump wants to change Wall Street. I don't think Trump wants to change the metrics of our financial system, right? I think he's okay with GDP. And he said for a long time he loves the US dollar, which that's fine, right? I'm not saying don't love the US dollar. But there's as much of an artist as Trump is, there's a certain lack of imagination, let's say. And I'm saying this from the guy who has one of the best policy ideas for the 2024 election, which is the freedom cities, right? Which is the ability to reorient and re-architect cities from scratch, which I still don't see anyone else in the campaign with as imaginative policy as that. So that's great stuff. So I'm not exactly saying Trump is without imagination, right? That's not what I want to say. What I'm saying is Robert Kennedy sees the future in a way that, let's say, reconciles with how Bitcoiners want to see the future and has a lot more nuance to it, which I think captures the things that need to change. And the things that need to change can be thought of like this, right? So this is a quote that Kennedy shared from his dad exactly about this material. And it's almost like it was written for our times. Weirdly, you're going to see that this is from Bobby Kennedy as he was running for president in 1968, talking about this aspect of food, GDP, and the metrics through which we measure our economy, and why that needs to change. And you're going to see how Bitcoin fits into this. And if it does fit into this frame that Kennedy shared, and if Kennedy is able to put Bitcoin in this frame, then we are actually going to be living in a Bitcoin standard golden age within a year if he's elected. And I am predicting he's going to win. It seems obvious to me now. There's no way Biden is making it out of this. And I think Kennedy can beat Trump in a fair fight, right? I think he can beat him. I don't think it's going to be beat him. It's not going to be a bare knuckle thing. I think that once those two people are the candidates, now, there's a million things that are going to go wrong. The national security apparatus is not going to let this happen. So we've got more unknowns to come. But if they actually just go in a hole and hide, he wins. They're not going to go in a hole and hide, right? So I'm predicting with less than perfect information here, right? So, but here's the quote. My father's words to students at the University of Kansas in 1968 at the start of his presidential run are equally applicable today. Like me, my father was running against a war waged by a Democrat incumbent president of his own party and the entire ferocious infrastructure of the Democrat Party, the liberal establishment that despised him, and the corporate media led by the New York Times, which was indignant at his candidacy. I didn't know that. I didn't know the New York Times hated his candidacy, but now I see it. So here's the quote, right? So he's saying GNP, our gross national product. GDP is pretty interchangeable, right? Gross domestic product, gross national product, not so different. So he's saying our gross national product now is over $800 billion a year. But the gross national product, if we judge the United States of America by that, the gross national product counts air pollution and cigarette advertising and ambulances to clear our highways of carnage. It counts special locks for our doors and the jails for the people who break them. It counts the destruction of the redwood and the loss of our natural wonder in chaotic sprawl. It counts napalm and counts nuclear warheads and armored cars for the police to fight the riots in our cities. It counts Whitman's rifle and Speck's knife and the television programs. Sorry, I had to change my page, which glorify violence in order to sell toys to our children. Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. And it can tell us everything about America except why we are proud that we are Americans. And I think in the end, what he's saying here is that, sort of getting at it, that if we do judge America by its economic might and economic power, and only that, we're going to miss out on everything. And not only that, the instrument to measure America by, this dollar, he called it 800 billion back then. 800 billion was the entire GNP of the United States. What is it today? 20 trillion, right? Is it 20? Is it, I mean, the whole world is like 200 trillion, right? Something like that. Or there's 200, I don't even know. Who knows? Who knows, right? Who knows? I remember it was 10 trillion a few years ago, the US GDP, but things change because of the stupid inflation. We don't even know Whatever he's talking about measuring, we don't even know that. We're not able to measure anything. And I've said it many times. If you don't measure, you're not managing, right? Measurement is management. And if you want to manage something, you have to measure it. You can't measure anything. You can't manage anything you're not measuring. How could you? That's the thing you're managing is the measurements. And you're trying to do things to change the measurements. But if you're not even measuring it, there's no management. So we have not managed anything in the American system in 60 or 70 years. We've only managed these psychological operations, the things like Joy Reid is talking about. Go talk to your neighbor about the fucking insurrection, right? That's what they're managing. They're managing psyops. That's it. There's one thing they manage. They don't know anything else. And that is the weakness of their plan, right? If you actually have something that will measure the world like Bitcoin, and that is indeed Bitcoin's major role. Bitcoin isn't about holding and every pleb in the world holds Bitcoin. I mean, it's a nice, quaint idea, but that's not where it's headed, right? Now, some plebs will make it, right? But it's not this thing where it's like a popular uprising of every single pleb in the world. No, it's just a bunch of rich people and energy barons and all these folks that don't want to measure their wealth in this stupid system anymore. That doesn't make any sense and is useless to them, right? Bitcoin allows you to change the measuring system. It allows you to manage almost everything. If you have a management system that allows you to see these things as they are and actually manage things like education and health, because you're not measuring it in dollars, you're measuring it in happiness, you're measuring it in just simple ways, right? Bitcoin simplifies literally every single way we measure and gauge the world around us. And that's really what its use is. It's an economic measurement tool, the same way water was used as a measurement tool and as the basis of the metric system, right? Water is simply the properties of water turned into the metric system. And you can't change those properties, which is why the metric system is so useful for measuring distances, space, and time, right? Or not time, but distances and space. That's why it's so useful. Now, Bitcoin can add time to that as well, right? Bitcoin is a time measurement. So you get time and you get all kinds of other things, incentives and all these different ways of measuring things that we couldn't before that will be useful in order for us to really make a better world, right? And now, again, I'd be happy if we had Trump. I'd be happy if we had Vivek. I'd be even happy with DeSantis. So he's going to fire the FBI guy. That's great. But I think Kennedy, Vivek too, but I think Kennedy is capable of approaching all these issues and managing how America changes. I don't know if America is exactly a republic at the end of this, and I don't really care, right? It's not a big deal, right? He could actually take a more monarchistic approach, and which is already what we're at, right? There is no more legislative branch. There is no more judiciary, really. There's a bit of a Supreme Court, but that's about it. There is only the executive left in the republic, and the health of the republic is entirely tied to the practice of this executive branch. And now the states in the republic have all kinds of powers and rights, and that's the healthy part of America right now, and why America is actually doing great, right? I'm not here to say America is on a downswing. I think we're doing great. Every state that is realizing its own sovereignty today is making a better world for tomorrow. So that's happening at a clip that we can't even move. It's just everywhere, right? All these states are doing it. So so that's what's happening. Now, I asked, I already put it on Twitter. I asked ChatGPT to help me with a poem this morning about all the stuff we were talking about, as I often do, right? But today it was particularly good, so I'm going to read it. So I published it on Twitter, but we're going to read it here quick, and then I'm going to go to the comments. So this was somewhat inspired by what Kennedy said, and what I wanted to do was get the season, reason, and treason in one sentence, and I was writing it down, and usually that's what happens when I want to make a headline and I'm having a bit of trouble. Most days I don't need to go to ChatGPT. I can figure out the headline myself or the theme of the day. But today I just wasn't quite getting. In the end, I came up with this on my own. It's not in the thing, but I got the gist of the rhyme. So a new season of reason means treason, right? So the idea here is that if you use your brain, right, in this season, you're committing treason now, right? Which we should all embrace. I'm a terrorist. You're a terrorist. Let's do some treason, right? And of course, I asked ChatGPT to help me with this poem, and I said, don't forget to put Thomas Jefferson's quote in it, because I was inspired by Kennedy mentioning Jefferson's idea for America, which are the thousands of landholders farming and participating in the republic, right? So that's what he said. So here's the poem. When gold grows in pockets, not fields, 'tis the season. When the eagle's beak dips in corruption, the reason. There in the hollowed halls of power's domain, when justice is lost and greed's all to gain, underneath the stars of our forefathers' dreams, a wail sounds forth from the land of the free, not of glory, but of growing unease, the cloak of liberty shredded by the summer's breeze. The badges of enforcement tarnished by tyranny, no longer symbols of safety, but tools of disparity. Eyes unseen watch through a spectral lens, our privacy offered up for security's pretense. Banks, like leviathans, feast on the poor, the rich getting richer as the needy implore. Insipid growth of spy agencies casting their shadow, while the common man drowns in the undertow. In fertile fields where wheat once stood tall, corporate carpetbaggers make their parasitic crawl. The heartland's pulse grows weak, its rhythm stuttering, beneath the weight of greed, the soul of a nation's suffering. Yet, as seasons shift, so too can hearts. As Jefferson reminded, revolutions restart. For when a government harms, not helps its own, the people have the right to reclaim their throne. In every generation, he said, let freedom ring. A little rebellion now and then is a good thing. For the tree of liberty in times of treason must be refreshed with the blood of patriots in season. So, as the autumn leaves begin to fall, we must stand against the corruptive squall. For the winter of our discontent is at hand. The time is ripe to take back our land. For it is we, the people, strong and resilient, whose hearts burn for justice, vibrant and brilliant, who can usher in a new season of reason and find good cause for our own treason. Let's do it. Let's do some treason, guys. We love treason, right? We're in solidarity with old Trump's treason. We love it, right? And I think Bitcoiners are we're D-Day, guys. That's how you do treason in this environment. You bankrupt their stupid banks and get on with it. All right, now let me see some of these comments. We got a whole bunch today. I don't know if I'm going to get into. I see some spatting I've been noticing. I don't care about Israel Zionist stuff, so I'm not going to be. I just won't join in on this. I lived in Toronto recently. It was crazy. Well, now I live in the woods. Yeah, I hate Toronto. It's such a shithole. One of my great highlights. I think it will be one of my highlights of my life. The night Trump won, I was living in Toronto, and I put the old hat on and just said, fuck you to everyone. Walked down the street with the biggest grin on my face, just laughing at people crying and stupid Canadians. Oh, Trump won. No, it's not even my country. It was the best. It was the best. I'll never forget it, right? I just had such a great time. Lost a lot of friends because I had to go brag to them, right? You know, oh, you're laughing about democracy dying. Ah! These were smart people I went to law school with and stuff. So law school won't help you be that smart. So don't worry about it. Yeah, DeSantis can't seem to get out of his own way. I don't mind the guy. I mean, like I said, I love the guy, but Laura is great. We love Laura. She does care about Israel. Yeah. She does. Yeah, she does. She does. The FBI document that was made public clearly showed pay to play more than enough to impeach. Yeah, he's impeached, guys. It's not the news isn't going to be able to save him. All they need now. That's why I said this whole thing was a big deal, because now they can go get the statement from him. Once they get the statement from him and he has to lie about the phone conversations, he's getting impeached. It's 100%. 100%. Sorry, I missed the first 10 minutes. Did we cover the weather? We sure did. We love the weather. We love the weather. We love the weather. Yeah, Christaberg. All right. CK in the house. Hope you're doing well, my man. Hi, Bitcoiners. Tom says, hope you're well. We're doing great. Thanks for the tip, Robert, on the mic. Anytime, I don't always know. I don't want a million quotes about audio and technical problems. We're not going for 100% on the production quality, just because it's too hard to mimic every single day. But always let me know if I'm having some mic troubles, and we'll do our best. There you go. And Codex Alimentarius. Yes. We like the like mashing of the like button, Bitcoiners. So smash or do what you got to do. Right? Do what you got to do. Chat GPT is so woke. You know, do you know how many times I get like, so any even mention of the word Biden will get the Mid-Journey to just crap out. It can't handle it. It can't deal with Biden anymore. It just tells you you're not allowed. Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Good, Feng Wei. I appreciate it. Yeah, September impeachment with market crash. Yes, September has been. Yeah, that Dan. I'm saying September impeachment, and the market crash is, I think, right on schedule. That's what I'm seeing. La Mañana. My Twitter feed is Count BTC. You'll find it there. You'll find it there. Sometimes you have to give people a chance to figure out what the charade in politics will not save them. Look inward for answers to happiness. P-Man, you got it right. You got it right. All right, team. Oh, let me wait. That's okay. I've heard anyway that YouTube gives you a bit of bonus if you make it to an hour. So I've been trying to make it to an hour lately, but it hasn't really made that much of a difference. I don't think YouTube likes us too much. Had a big day on Rumble the other day, though. We got a lot of views, so we're happy about that. All right, team. Hope you're doing great. I shall see you tomorrow. Yeah, housing. All right, team. Peace. Peace.